Is the universe a result of astronomical coincidence, or does it bear a creator's signature? The fine-tuning of physical constants suggests intentional design. Are we here by chance or by purpose?
Okay, so today we're digging into a document that makes, well, one of the wildest claims you can imagine. It's all about this idea of a mathematical signature, supposedly hidden away in ancient texts, that perfectly matches the 14 billion-year history of our universe. Now, is that just a coincidence of impossible odds, or could it be something more? Let's dive in and find out.
So how on earth does the author even begin to make a claim that bold? Well, the entire argument, and I mean all of it, hinges on a single, absolutely mind-boggling number. It's a statistical claim so out there, it really makes you just stop and ask, what is even possible?
And there it is. That's the probability the source calculates for all of this happening by pure chance. To put that another way, we're talking about 1 in 10 with 141 zeros after it. So what is this exactly? It's the odds of 33 very specific numbers, pulled from ancient scriptures and calendars, just happening to line up perfectly with 33 major moments in cosmic and geological history, just by accident.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. The source material tries to put that number into a context we can understand using something called sigma levels. Think of it as a scientific confidence score. For instance, finding the Higgs boson, a Nobel Prize-winning discovery, required a confidence level of about 5 sigma. The source claims the evidence for this Lord's calendar is over 115 sigma. Statistically, that's not just off the charts, it's in a completely different universe.
All right, so you have to wonder, where does a theory like this even come from? According to the author, it wasn't the result of decades of poring over books in a lab. Nope. Instead, they say it came in a sudden flash of insight, a revelation that gave them what they call the skeleton equation.
And this single equation, the author claims, is the absolute master key. It's the framework that supposedly brings scripture and science together in a coherent way. It's presented as the foundational insight. Everything else in the document stems directly from this one thing.
So, at the very heart of this equation is this concept the author calls the Lord's Lattice. It's a mathematical model, and it's built on a single, very specific principle from Scripture. To the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years. Taking that idea literally, the author basically creates this kind of fractal calendar, scaling that 1 day to 1,000 years ratio up and up to map out time across the entire history of the cosmos. Okay, so we've got the theory, this Lord's Lattice. But does it actually, work? This is where things get really specific. The author argues that this lattice isn't just spitting out abstract ideas. No, it's generating concrete dates that they claim line up perfectly with the official scientific timeline of our planet's history. And here are just a few examples of the 33 claimed alignments. The model's output supposedly points to 14.04 billion years ago. Bam! A direct hit on the Big Bang. It also supposedly flags the formation of Earth's first continental crust, the Cambrian explosion of life, and it even claims to pinpoint the dawn of hominins at exactly 7 million years ago, a date, by the way, that the source claims has 0% error. Zero!
But believe it or not, the claims don't stop with just geology and cosmology. The source presents this model as something way, way bigger, like a mathematical skeleton key that can unlock some of the deepest, most difficult problems in all of science.
And this is where the claims just go to a whole other level. The source alleges that this same mathematical structure provides theoretical solutions for several of the Millennium Prize problems. Those legendary unsolved math challenges that each come with $1 million prize? And, as if that wasn't enough, it also claims to propose a physical mechanism for human consciousness itself.
Yeah. And look, these weren't just some casual claims thrown out there. The source material actually includes formal submissions, like this cover letter you see here to the Clay Mathematics Institute. In it, the author claims to have found proofs for the Riemann hypothesis, the Poincare conjecture, and the Navier-Stokes problem, all supposedly derived from this one, single, unified lattice.
Okay, this all leads to a pretty obvious question, right? If this model is so powerful, why isn't it the single biggest story in the history of science? Well, the author points to one fundamental barrier, that massive wall that exists between the empirical world of science and the divine origins of the discovery. And this quote really just sums up the whole dilemma the author feels they're in.
They're basically saying that the academic world is just hardwired to dismiss the work right away as, some kind of religiously motivated number fudging. And because of that, they feel the data itself never gets a fair shake, never gets judged on its own merits.
So, where does that leave us? We've arrived at the conclusion presented in the source material. After looking at all the statistical claims, the supposed geological alignments, and the proposed solutions to some of science's biggest problems, the author says it all comes down to one fundamental choice.
Yeah, the author's position is pretty straightforward. They say to dismiss all this data, you have to accept a coincidence of, well, literally astronomical improbability. But to accept it, they claim, leads to only one conclusion, that its source is a divine creator. And that's really the question this document leaves you with. Are we looking at the single greatest statistical fluke in the history of the universe, or is this some kind of deliberate signature written right into the fabric of time itself?